And welcome back to the Pizza Cafe and the Arkyana podcast, featuring the Arkyana Hogs, our Louisiana natives, Rick David and Mike Shepard. We're in week 8 of college football, week 5 of the podcast. And Rick, you left me with what I thought Arkansas might do in these last 6 games. And I'm going to tell you, first of all, I think this coming Saturday's game with Auburn could very well be the biggest game in Bret Bielema's coaching career at Arkansas to this point. I think Arkansas needs a victory in more ways than one. I think the fans need this win over Auburn. I think Arkansas needs it to get started on what I think they could do is, no worse than maybe a 4-2 finish over these last 6 games. To me, that's the worst case scenario unless I have to say, unless they're just flat out out-coached, out-play-called, out-executed. I think Arkansas has enough talent to win those 4 games in state, and they should win those. And then you go on the road, you catch LSU between their big rivalry games with Alabama and Ole Miss. You do catch Ole Miss fresh, and Ole Miss will be looking for a great finish as well. And that may be a tough out for the Razorbacks. You look at what Memphis did to Ole Miss this past weekend, and you say, well, if they can do it, why can't Arkansas? How has Memphis gotten to a point that they have enough talent to outplay Ole Miss basically for 3 of the 4 quarters? They fall down 14-0, outscore them 31-0 from that point on. So, to me, they're all winnable. Arkansas should go into those games thinking they're all winnable. They should also have an offense at this point in time, and I don't think they do yet, that's aggressive, that's confident, that takes the field not highly risk-averse, scared to make a mistake, but to go out there and play aggressive, play fast, know what their routes are. They got a quarterback who can throw accurately to 25 yards this year. They should be able to go out and hit these teams fast, move the football on the ground and in the air, and potentially finish with a great finish, a 6-0 finish. We'll just, I think it's asking a lot to go on the road in the SEC to win right now with the team they've got, but we'll see what happens. Mike, what's your thoughts?
Sure. Well, we just played the best team in the nation, in my opinion. And I say that because we've had some injuries, key injuries on offense, and we come out and we, the staff, it's been proven that they tend to peak at the end of the season. Coming out of the Alabama game, I'm encouraged by how we can execute a game plan, how we can adjust our defense to match most offenses. We came out of the spread Texas Tech game and dramatically improved versus A&M in the same offense. So I'm confident versus the spread as well as the power football. So heading forward against Auburn, I think we'll do well. Our defense versus their offensive scheme. Our offense should perform very handily against Auburn. I don't think there's any barriers there. So we win against Auburn. Going forward into games, of course, you've got Tennessee Martin. That should be a victory. It should be a nice way to get some guys some reps and maybe pad Hunter Henry's stats. Who knows? Then moving forward from there, you're talking what? Ole Miss? Is that next on the roster? Ole Miss, I feel very confident going into Oxford. I think we're going to beat Ole Miss there. And that's based on our defensive ability and how we peak toward the end of the season as a team. We're going to lose at LSU. That's my feeling there. I always pull against LSU, and of course, being from Monroe, and I have the greatest hopes, and I always attend that game. I've yet to miss one that I can recall. So we'll lose to LSU. Missouri, if you look at what happened with Missouri versus Georgia, am I skipping somebody? Mississippi State. Mississippi State, we should beat them. It's ground and pound with those guys. Physically, we outmatch them. Aren't we playing them at home?
We got Mississippi State and Missouri at home.
Yeah, we beat Mississippi State at home. We beat Missouri at home. And just paying attention to Missouri, we were at that game last year, Rick, and I have a personal issue with that. And I think that not only were we better than them last year, this year we're certainly better. And if you look at what Georgia did to their offense, holding them to, I think it was 20 yards on 22 rushes, and their passing offense was 150 yards or so. I think we stand a very good chance of closing out the season with a victory at Missouri, putting us with some good momentum heading into a bowl game. I see that happening. I really do. I trust this staff, and I trust the players that we're seeing right now, and I trust coming out of the Alabama game that we got better versus Alabama.
I agree with you, Michael. You know, looking at that Auburn game, that's one that you go. Bret Bielema was teeing this up early on in the year when he said he doesn't like Auburn, and he's got 2 weeks to prepare for them. And he got to see them on Thursday night and had an extra couple of days to scout what they did against Kentucky. And trust me, Auburn wasn't looking ahead to Arkansas. They were looking at how do we beat Kentucky. And might I add this? How bad is the SEC East? They're getting their butts kicked left and right by the SEC West. With the exception of Ole Miss laying an egg at Florida, we've annihilated them. Their best teams are Tennessee and Florida. And I'll tell you right now, I wish we played Florida tomorrow because that's a bunch of little running backs running around out there. They're not really all that physical. LSU pushed them around left and right. I would love to play Florida. I'd love to play Georgia this year. I just don't believe in the East. But getting back on topic here, I think the Hogs take care of Auburn this week. I think they're prepared. Auburn's one of the more difficult teams to prepare for because they're 50-50 run, 50-50 pass. But when you look, go ahead and you go in the future. Obviously, Tennessee Martin, we shouldn't take anybody lightly after Toledo, right? But I'm not too worried about playing a team that I know PA and Catholic could probably beat. So we'll give them a 99.9% chance to win that game. You move on and you look at Ole Miss. I really like our chances there. I would tend to say we're probably a 55% chance to win that ball game. I just sense that I don't believe in Ole Miss and what Hugh Freeze is doing, and I see our defense just getting better and better each week. And then you go ahead and you go to LSU. I agree with Mike. LSU's a physical ball club that plays downhill football, and we've got the lines to match up with LSU, but I don't know if we have the linebackers to stop a Fournette, or if we have the running backs that can go head-to-head with their linebackers on a regular basis. And that's why I tend to lean towards LSU victory as opposed to Hog victory. And then you go and you look at Mississippi State. I think we'll be well prepared for that ball game going in. We get them at home. A little bit of a grudge match there because we lost to them in an unfortunate fashion a year ago. And then against Missouri, like Mike said, Missouri got their butts kicked this week by Georgia. Their offense is pathetic. They've got a really stout defense, but I think we can lean on those guys and really control it. So, I'm looking at, possibly 5-1, at the worst 4-2.
Concerns I have about this team in this stretch, though, Mike and Rick, is we've talked about this several times away from our podcast. And I think that Dan Enos has done a great job individually with different players. I think he's got a big hand with the receiver improvement with Michael Smith's group, too. I think individually he runs some great drills. He's made Brandon Allen a better quarterback as far as better foundation, better throwing, much more accurate than he's ever been in the 20-yard range. And I'm not sure why they're not throwing it 40 yards downfield unless they just don't have that in there. I don't know if Brandon is hiding another injury that we don't know about. But I want to say that some of my questions about Arkansas in this last stretch is the play calling aspect of it. I think I see examples where there's a lot of head-scratching play calls this year. I think Jim Chaney, believe it or not, was probably more creative. I think he found more things. I think he did some weird things too. But I don't see any creativity lately out of the offense, and I see a lot of play calls, such as when you run a pitch sweep to Alex Collins and you've got 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 against Alabama, and you come out and you run a draw play to follow that up. I thought that was a real head-scratcher in the ball game to me. It was this high-risk-averse offense that doesn't really challenge a defense that much is a concern. The preparation before the game. I mean, Chaney never failed in most cases, to have a touchdown drive or two off the start of the game. He had a scripted game that was well done. I don't see Arkansas coming out to start a game scripted or even knowing what they really want to do on the first couple of series. So if I'm going to worry about some things down the stretch that need to be corrected, it's that, and not being so, if Arkansas leads in the fourth quarter, to not decide to just play it like you've got an Alabama defense and you can be conservative on offense, because I think there's enough weak links on defense to give up a home run against Ole Miss if you're trying to protect a 3-point lead, or at LSU like we saw 2 years ago, trying to, give up a 97-yard drive. So what are your thoughts on the points I made about play calling and fourth quarter strategy?
I think you're spot on in regards to the play calling. The one great thing about the spread offense is it's dynamic. It attacks all points on the field. And Jim, you and I were talking about this during the break. Coach that figures out how to run a spread offense in the power game at the same time, they're really going to hit the lottery. It's being able to get that component of just, I don't know what to expect in your offense, and we just don't seem to do that. We seem to be very predictable in regards to the play calling. It's one of those deals where it definitely needs to change. Hopefully during this break that they've had during the open week, that the Hogs can kind of really reinvent themselves a little bit and steady the ship on the offensive side of the ball. You definitely need some more creativity, especially in short yardage situations and in the red zone, to say the least. Michael, your thoughts?
One of the things you learn if you're a fan or if you're a player, especially if you're a coach, is not to look too far forward. This week, focusing on Auburn, I think that the things that I trust and that I see and that I feel, coming out of the Alabama game, we got better. I see a lot of improvement, and I think coming out of that Alabama game, these guys have a lot of confidence as well. We lost the game, yet if you're going to lose to the best team in the country right now, seeing the best defense in the country is, I think, a good lesson for our offense. And I think you'll see some more creativity coming with the play calling coming out of this week. Rick, you mentioned the week off. That's a key fundamental that most people aren't talking about. That will play in our favor going into the game against Auburn.
Self-scout during an off week, and I hope that what we've been able to do is do some self-scouting and look at what our tendencies are. I had an open week when I was coaching, and that's what you do. You go, well, let's look at us before we look at the next opponent. Yeah,
you look at tendencies. You also look at opportunities to get some players involved that might not have been looked at before. So, we've got some wide receivers that have shown promise. Who knows what we'll see as far as creativity. I want to make one point. We haven't seen the long play from Arkansas like our opponents have shown us. So that's lacking.
Do we see Jared Collins and Keon Hatcher back again anytime soon, or you think that's just sort of Coach B's window dressing of, they might be back, kind of like he did with Derby late in the year?
I think we're going to see some guys back. Hollister, I want to say, his injury is probably not as bad as Hatcher's is, so he could be back. You get Hatcher back and possibly, before the end of the season. 6 weeks is what we were told in Toledo, so, that puts you back. And Cornelius is catching balls right now. He just can't have contact. That'll be interesting to see if that happens.
We heard Wande getting back from his ACL. Could be back too. I mean, we need something else at running back. I'm not sure they have it on the roster, but it seems like there needs to be a complement to Raleigh Williams and to Alex Collins. It's not there.
Everybody here from Little Rock is hoping that Jay Day comes out and becomes a player, but the reality is he had an MCL sprain. He hadn't played in an SEC football game yet. Raleigh Williams is ahead of him, and he's going to be the spark that's going to help out our running game. One thing I want to do, though, on this podcast is really kind of go after Cliff Kingsbury as much as I possibly can. Because this was a weekend where Cliff Kingsbury is not talking loud about, power offenses. Because this weekend, Stanford, a power football team, beat the snot out of UCLA. Then we see Alabama take his good buddies down at College Station, old Kevin Sumlin, and they got the snot beat out of him. I think Derrick Henry is still running for touchdowns against
Texas. I've ever pulled for Alabama.
Yeah, I know. It really is. And Cliff Kingsbury helped me with that game. LSU dominated Florida really physically because they run the football and run power football, and the spread offense got stuffed by Florida. And then you look in the Big Ten, Iowa ran for 300 yards, and Northwestern passed it 43 times for a whopping 10 points, and Iowa put up 40 points. And then you look at Notre Dame over USC. They ran for 214. USC passed it 47 times, though, and they lost. So when you look at that, Cliff Kingsbury, just remember, you still got to be a physical football team to win, bottom line.
Yeah, he's and he manhandled Kansas, might add, 30-20. He manhandled them. One of the worst teams in college football. Of course, he is a team that beat Arkansas. He beat Arkansas worse than he beat Kansas on the road. Yeah, which is sad. Any last thoughts from you, Mike, on the weekend? Any surprises to come out of this idle week?
Speaking of injuries, let's keep our expectations realistic. These guys coming back haven't been getting reps. They're not in midseason form like the rest of us. As fans and players on the team, they're not in midseason form. I really think that as Frank Burrell's always said, they remember in November. I really think the Hogs are going to peak in November, and I think we have some things to look forward to. I do think we go to a bowl game. It starts this week with Auburn. I don't know about you guys, but I will be there, and I hope the stands are packed. It's going to be 11 a.m. kickoff, which we haven't had yet. It's a great opportunity to get the second half of the season kicked off well and get on a win streak.
Well, I want to thank you guys again. Sunday night at the Pizza Cafe to do our podcast and to get it up on the intrawebs. Hope you guys out there enjoy it. If you got any suggestions for us that you would like us to hit on, you know where to tweet me. You can tweet Rick at Rick David Hogs on Twitter. Rick David Hog. And Shep Hog is on now. SHEPHOG. Yeah. Shep Hog is tweeting. So all three of us through Twitter. You can email or make a comment here on the website where you've heard this, and we'll see you again next week after the Auburn game, and we'll talk about that one. Anyway, have a great week, Hog fans, and we'll see you later.